In the heart of ancient Egypt, nestled beside the Nile, stood a palace glittering under the sun. Pharaoh Amenhotep ruled with unmatched wisdom, loved deeply by his people. At his side was Queen Nefertari, a woman whose beauty could rival even Isis herself. Their love was celebrated throughout the kingdom, yet beneath the grandeur and golden halls, shadows stirred. One fateful night, beneath the silent gaze of towering statues, Queen Nefertari wandered the palace gardens alone. The moon cast silvery beams across the sands, whispering secrets through palm fronds. Deep within her heart, restlessness had taken root, nurtured by solitude and longing. Suddenly, footsteps echoed softly behind her. Turning swiftly, Nefertari saw the familiar eyes of Prince Seti, Pharaoh Amenhotep's younger brother. His gaze held mysteries darker than the deepest tomb. Seti smiled faintly, approaching with calculated grace. "Why do you wander alone, my queen?" he asked gently, his voice barely above a whisper. Nefertari felt her heart quicken, aware of the warmth in his words. "I seek peace," she replied softly, avoiding his penetrating gaze. "Yet peace eludes me tonight." Seti stepped closer, his presence dangerously comforting. "Perhaps peace is not what you truly desire," he murmured knowingly. Nefertari met his eyes, startled by his boldness, yet drawn by the promise hidden within. "And what do you believe I desire, Prince?" she questioned, her voice trembling slightly. Seti's gaze intensified, eyes reflecting moonlight like dark mirrors. "Freedom, passion, a life beyond duties and appearances." The queen's heart raced uncontrollably. She knew she should turn away, return swiftly to the pharaoh's side, but something within held her captive. "Careful, Prince," she whispered. "Such thoughts can endanger lives." Seti smiled knowingly, leaning closer. "Perhaps some dangers," he whispered, "are worth the risk." Under the moon's silent witness, their fates intertwined forever. In the following days, Queen Nefertari struggled to silence her heart's yearning whispers. The memory of Seti's words lingered persistently, echoing through her mind like an enchanting melody. Despite trying to avoid him, fate continuously crossed their paths, each encounter stirring emotions she could scarcely control. During royal feasts and court assemblies, her eyes would inevitably meet Seti's, igniting an unspoken tension. Pharaoh Amenhotep, engrossed in governance, remained unaware, his trust absolute. Nefertari felt burdened by guilt, yet captivated by the allure of the forbidden. Late one evening, Seti visited the temple dedicated to Hathor, the goddess of love and passion, to offer secret prayers. Nefertari, unaware of his presence, entered quietly to seek divine guidance. Within the flickering shadows of torchlight, their eyes met again, undeniably drawn by destiny. "My queen," Seti whispered, stepping cautiously toward her, his voice thick with emotion. "Fate keeps bringing us together." Nefertari hesitated, her heart pounding fiercely. "Fate tests us," she responded softly, her voice barely audible above the gentle rustling of temple curtains. Seti approached closer, daring to gently take her hand. Nefertari felt a warmth surge through her, conflicting deeply with her devotion and loyalty to Pharaoh. She trembled, but did not withdraw, acknowledging her desire openly for the first time. "What is happening to us, Seti?" she whispered painfully. He gently cupped her cheek, looking deeply into her conflicted eyes. "Destiny chooses its own path. "We merely follow," he replied earnestly. Overwhelmed, Nefertari finally surrendered to the moment, allowing Seti's lips to meet hers in a gentle yet powerful embrace. Their kiss, hidden within the sacred temple walls, sealed their betrayal and set into motion an irrevocable course of love, danger, and treachery that neither could have anticipated. In the weeks that followed, Queen Nefertari and Prince Seti met secretly, each encounter intensifying their forbidden passion. Hidden corridors, quiet chambers, and moonlit gardens became silent witnesses to their treacherous romance. Yet beneath their intoxicating love lay a fear that haunted every moment, the threat of discovery and the consequences it would bring. Despite the danger, their hearts refused to part ways, trapped by desires too powerful to deny. Pharaoh Amenhotep, preoccupied by state affairs, remained oblivious, trusting completely in his queen and beloved brother. But palace walls have ears, and servants whispered rumors of suspicious shadows and hurried footsteps late at night. Suspicion soon infected the air of the royal court. One evening, High Priest Menkaper overheard hushed voices coming from the gardens. He recognized the unmistakable voices of Nefertari and Seti. Hidden in darkness, he listened, shocked by their whispered confessions of love. Torn between loyalty and duty, Menkaper retreated silently, knowing he held a secret capable of shaking Egypt's foundations. Days later, Menkaper approached the pharaoh, cautiously choosing his words. "Great Pharaoh," he began respectfully, "it pains me deeply, but whispers of betrayal have reached my ears." Pharaoh Amenhotep, alarmed yet skeptical, demanded clarity. "Speak plainly, priest. Who dares betray me?" Menkaper lowered his voice solemnly. "Your beloved queen and your brother, Prince Seti." Amenhotep's heart shattered in disbelief. Yet his pride masked the deep wound inflicted by the revelation. Determined to uncover the truth himself, Amenhotep began secretly observing his queen and brother. His trust slowly eroded, replaced by a cold, burning anger. Unaware of the gathering storm, Nefertari and Seti continued their secret meetings, blinded by love and oblivious to the pharaoh's watchful gaze. The stage was set for a confrontation that would change their destinies and Egypt itself forever. Pharaoh Amenhotep's heart grew darker with each hidden glance he witnessed between Nefertari and Seti. His once unshakable trust had crumbled, replaced by bitterness and suspicion. He silently watched their every move, carefully planning his next steps. Unable to share his turmoil openly, Amenhotep's sorrow turned inward, festering into hatred toward the two people he once loved most. Meanwhile, Nefertari began noticing subtle changes in her husband's demon aura, cold distance, and a piercing gaze that felt like daggers in her soul. One night, Amenhotep confronted Nefertari, his voice deceptively calm, but laced with menace. "My queen," he began, "is there something you wish to share?" Nefertari's heart raced as panic surged through her. She forced herself to appear composed, though her voice trembled. "Nothing troubles me, my pharaoh. Why do you ask?" Amenhotep smiled bitterly, eyes filled with barely restrained fury. "Secrets rarely remain hidden forever," he whispered ominously. Fear tightened around Nefertari's heart. She sensed the growing danger, knowing her affair with Seti could no longer remain hidden. Later that night, desperate and afraid, Nefertari found Seti, pleading for an end to their dangerous love. "We must stop, Seti. she whispered urgently. He knows, or at least suspects. Seti, however, refused to abandon their passion. No, my love, he insisted fiercely, gripping her hand tightly. We cannot run from destiny now. Unbeknownst to them, the pharaoh had already set his plan in motion. He summoned the palace guards, secretly instructing them to watch Seti closely. The palace became a silent battlefield of betrayal, suspicion, and fear. Every step, every whisper, every shadow now threatened their lives. Nefertari felt trapped, torn between love and survival. As Amenhotep's anger grew, the lovers unknowingly walked toward disaster, blinded by their hearts and unaware that their betrayal had already sealed their fate. Consumed by betrayal, Pharaoh Amenhotep meticulously planned his revenge. His heart, now hardened, knew only anger and vengeance. Late one evening, he summoned High Priest Menkaper to the throne room, illuminated by flickering torches. The priest approached cautiously, sensing the dangerous storm brewing in his ruler's eyes. "My pharaoh," he bowed deeply, voice shaking, "what is your command?" Amenhotep spoke coldly, his voice sharp as steel. "My queen and brother have betrayed me. They must face justice." Menkaper hesitated, knowing the gravity of the pharaoh's words. "What punishment do you propose, my king?" he asked carefully. Amenhotep leaned forward, eyes blazing. "Seti shall be accused publicly of treason, punished as a traitor. As for Nefertari, she will live, but stripped of her status and imprisoned to suffer the torment of her betrayal." Menkaper swallowed hard, sensing the pharaoh's irreversible fury. "As you wish, great pharaoh," he replied solemnly. Early next morning, palace guards stormed Seti's chambers, capturing him as a traitor. Seti resisted fiercely, but guards restrained him, dragging him before a gathering crowd in the palace courtyard. Nefertari, hearing the commotion, rushed out, horrified as Seti was forced to kneel. "Amenhotep, please," she begged, her voice breaking. But the pharaoh remained unmoved, his eyes cold and unforgiving. "You betrayed your king," Amenhotep pronounced, his voice echoing powerfully. "Now face your punishment." Seti defiantly met his brother's gaze, speaking boldly, "You may punish my body, but never my heart." Angered further, Amenhotep ordered Seti imprisoned, awaiting execution. Nefertari fell to her knees, weeping uncontrollably. Guards swiftly seized her, stripping her of royal adornments and dragging her away to a secluded cell. Locked away in darkness, Nefertari felt despair crush her soul. She had risked everything for love, and now all she cherished had vanished. Alone in the gloom, she wondered if passion had been worth the devastating cost. Days passed in suffocating silence, and Queen Nefertari languished within her dim prison cell, tormented by guilt and grief. Each passing hour deepened her remorse over the choices that led her here. Seti's fate weighed heavily upon her heart, haunting her dreams with visions of his suffering. But despair had not completely extinguished hope. One night, a faint scratching sound echoed through the darkness, stirring her from restless sleep. Nefertari strained her eyes toward the sound, barely making out the silhouette of a hooded figure emerging from shadows. Her heart raced, fearful yet curious. "Who are you?" she whispered nervously. The figure lowered his hood, revealing Menkaper, the high priest, his expression resolute yet sympathetic. "I cannot stand idly," while Egypt falls apart," he explained quickly. "Your betrayal hurt our pharaoh deeply, yet he grows dangerously unstable. Egypt needs stability, not vengeance." Menkaper silently unlocked her chains, cautioning, "You must flee far from here, my queen. Start anew elsewhere and live out your days in peace." Tears welled in Nefertari's eyes, gratitude mixed with sorrow. "And what of Seti?" she asked anxiously. Menkaper hesitated, shaking his head sadly. "Seti's fate is sealed. Amenhotep will not relent. Save yourself, Nefertari. It is all you can do now." With trembling hands, Nefertari rose from the cold floor, following Menkaper carefully through winding tunnels beneath the palace, hidden passages known only to the high priesthood. As they emerged into the chill night air, the stars shining brightly overhead, Menkaper offered her a small satchel filled with gold and supplies. "Travel far, my queen. Leave Egypt behind. Your old life has ended, but perhaps another awaits." Nefertari thanked him softly, heart heavy with sadness and gratitude, and quickly disappeared into the desert shadows. Freedom stretched before her, uncertain yet hopeful, as the sands of Egypt swallowed her footsteps behind her. Under the endless Egyptian sky, Queen Nefertari journeyed alone through the relentless desert sands. Days became nights, and nights melted into days. The harsh sun burned her skin, but determination drove her onward. Her royal garments became tattered, symbols of a past she had forsaken. Eventually, she reached a small oasis village nestled amid Dunessa's humble settlement, untouched by the palace's intrigues. Disguised and weary, she introduced herself simply as Nefer, hiding her true identity beneath layers of humility. Villagers welcomed cautiously but kindly, unaware they sheltered a fallen queen. Nefertari soon adapted to her new simple life, working quietly, performing menial tasks without complaint. Yet, despite newfound Seti's face haunted her dreams. Each night, she saw him imprisoned, calling out desperately for her. Her heart struggled between acceptance of this new freedom and unresolved guilt from leaving Seti behind. Months passed, and life gradually grew tranquil. But peace proved fleeting. One afternoon, whispers swept through the village of royal soldiers searching nearby settlements, hunting for a fugitive queen. Panic surged within Nefertari's heart. Her past had found her once again. A village elder approached solemnly, sensing her anxiety. "I know who you are," the elder said gently, her voice filled with wisdom. "Yet, we will protect you. The desert guards those who seek its shelter sincerely." Nefertari's eyes filled with tears, grateful for such compassion. Determined to avoid endangering these kind souls, she decided she must leave immediately. That night, under the watchful stars, Nefertari bid the villagers farewell, again setting out into the unknown. Carrying their blessings and renewed courage, she headed toward distant lands beyond the reach of Egypt's vengeance. She vowed silently to rebuild herself, far from memories of betrayal, yet forever burdened by a love that had destroyed everything she once held dear. Back within the palace walls, Prince Seti awaited judgment, shackled in a cold stone cell. Betrayed by passion and ambition, his once bright future darkened to nothingness. Each passing day brought him closer to execution, and Pharaoh Amenhotep's wrath showed no mercy. Guards frequently visited, tormenting him with reminders of his betrayal and impending doom. Yet Seti's spirit remained unbroken. Pride and defiance burned within his eyes, refusing to surrender completely to despair. One evening, footsteps approached a sound heavier, more purposeful. Pharaoh Amenhotep himself entered the cell, eyes filled with a simmering rage, masked beneath calm authority. "Brother," Amenhotep's voice dripped bitter irony, "how swiftly you threw away loyalty and trust." Seti met his brother's gaze fearlessly. "It was love, not treason, that guided me," he responded boldly, unwilling to repent. Amenhotep's expression hardened further, disgust evident in his eyes. "Your so-called love has torn this kingdom apart. Yet Nefertari has fled, abandoning you. Was your betrayal worth this end?" Seti smiled bitterly, refusing to show weakness. "She escaped your cruelty. My only regret is leaving her alone to face uncertainty." Angered by Seti's defiance, Amenhotep issued a chilling decree. "Tomorrow at dawn, Egypt shall witness the price of betrayal. You shall face the blade, your name erased forever." Seti closed his eyes, accepting his fate. As Amenhotep departed, Seti whispered a final prayer, hoping somehow Nefertari had found peace and freedom. Dawn broke over Egypt, cold and pale, as crowds gathered to witness Seti's punishment. As he faced execution, his gaze turned skyward, thinking only of Nefertari. A final breath, a swift stroke, and Seti's tragic tale concluded in silence, his dreams extinguished by ambition and forbidden love. Egypt mourned quietly, understanding this tragedy would forever stain the kingdom's memory, a stark reminder of how love and betrayal could unravel even the strongest bonds. In the aftermath of Seti's execution, Pharaoh Amenhotep found no peace. Instead of victory, a heavy sorrow enveloped him, poisoning his heart with relentless guilt. Each day he sat alone, haunted by memories of better times of laughter shared with Seti, of loving glances exchanged with Nefertari. The walls of the palace, once symbols of power and glory, now felt like tombstones marking his solitude. Amenhotep's sleep was disturbed nightly by vivid visions of Seti's lifeless body and Nefertari's tear-streaked face, accusing him silently. Tormented by regret, he withdrew further into isolation. High Priest Menkaper, observing the pharaoh's deterioration, tried to counsel him gently. "My pharaoh," he said softly, "you must forgive yourself and rebuild your heart." Amenhotep, eyes hoarse, shook his head bitterly. "Forgiveness is impossible, Menkaper. My hands are stained with the blood of those I loved most. How can a king live with such guilt?" Menkaper sighed deeply, sensing the kingdom's suffering mirrored in its ruler. "Then seek atonement, my pharaoh. Egypt needs healing, and so do you." His words echoed deep within Amenhotep's troubled soul. Determined to find some measure of redemption, Amenhotep commissioned temples and monuments dedicated to peace, forgiveness, and mercy, hoping to erase some of his sins. Yet, each stone laid felt heavier than the last, a stark reminder of losses that could never be restored. Slowly, whispers spread through Egypt, telling of the pharaoh's profound sorrow and attempts to mend his broken kingdom. Compassion replaced fear among the people as they watched their ruler humbled by grief. Though Amenhotep rebuilt much, peace eluded him personally. Each night he stood upon palace balconies, staring toward the endless desert, hoping somehow Nefertari had found a happiness he could never provide. Forever haunted by love lost and trust broken, he realized too late that revenge had destroyed not only his family, but himself. Far from Egypt's sands, Queen Nefertari journeyed into distant lands, her royal past fading into myth. In her solitude, she built a humble life among strangers who knew nothing of her former power or betrayal. As years passed, memories of Pharaoh Amenhotep and Seti lingered quietly, softened by time. She eventually found comfort in helping others, dedicating herself to teaching compassion, kindness, and humility, hoping to atone for her past mistakes. In a small coastal village, Nefertari established a sanctuary for the vulnerable, earning respect and love not through royal decree, but genuine care. Villagers affectionately called her Mother Nefer. Unaware they sheltered Egypt's fallen queen. As age gently touched her, Nefertari reflected deeply on her journey, recognizing the painful lessons learned, the devastating cost of forbidden love, the destructive power of betrayal, and the redemptive strength of forgiveness. One tranquil evening, a visitor from Egypt arrived unexpectedly, a young scribe seeking tales of legendary figures. Unaware of her identity, he shared stories from the land she left behind of Pharaoh Amenhotep's deep regret, Seti's tragic fate, and temples built seeking redemption. Listening quietly, Nefertari's heart filled with both sorrow and peace. Egypt had not forgotten their story. Recognizing the queen's wisdom, the scribe asked earnestly, "Mother Nefer, what lesson should I carry back?" With serene eyes, Nefertari replied gently, "Tell Egypt that love built on betrayal only leads to sorrow, but forgiveness and compassion heal even the deepest wounds." Years later, after Nefertari peacefully passed away, the villagers built a simple shrine, honoring her teachings. Word of Mother Nefer's wisdom eventually reached Egypt, intertwining with legends of a lost queen whose mistakes and sacrifices taught generations valuable lessons of love, redemption, and healing. Thus, Queen Nefertari's legacy lived eternally, a timeless reminder of humanity's capacity for both destruction and profound healing.